All right, so we're down to the last disorder that we're highlighting, at least in this section, and that's eating disorders. It makes sense that we would talk a little bit about this simply because of the prevalence on university campuses. And essentially what we're talking about in eating disorders are three different disorders that fall into this category. Many of them you've no doubt heard about: anorexia. And anorexia itself is an eating disorder in which a normal weight person, usually an adolescent female, this is far and away a female presentation than a male, diets to become significantly 15% or more underweight, yet feels fat and is obsessed with losing weight. And so essentially 15% of body weight, 15% or more body weight is lost, and usually it starts with dieting. Sometimes there is an excess, so you have dieting that has gone out of control. There is excess exercise, multiple hours in the gym, which impedes and impacts on the person's life. You see food rituals. Usually they have a severe calorie deficit that happens. It's not unusual to see anorexics be consumed with food, but not eating any food. It's not uncommon to find them actually being the chef of the family, but never eating any of it. So there's food rituals. And really, the core component with this is all about control. And it's hyper control in a sense that begins to develop. It oftentimes has some family background elements that are related to it. But what you see in this little picture down here is how it tends to be glorified even in the fashion industry. This girl, no doubt, is anorexic. You're able to see her shoulder blades. She has lost a lot of breast tissue because of her weight loss. The joints and the knees oftentimes betray it. This particular clavicle is particularly remarkable. And so it's a glorification in the fashion industry, certainly, around severe weight control, weight loss. The other thing that tends to happen here is the loss of her period. Like I said, you don't see very many men that are anorexic, but this occurs because of a loss of body fat. So we have a loss of body fat. Usually women will lose their menstrual cycle when the body has lost enough of body fat. And let's be clear, body fat's not all bad. I mean, actually, fat in the body acts as an organ. It releases its own hormone. So we have to take that into account. So you have this loss of a period, and then before long, joint damage, heart damage is another component part, partly because of the lack of vitamin K, potassium, that keeps the heart healthy. And so it's not uncommon to see women like Karen Carpenter, for example. If you want to look at a story that is related to anorexia, Karen Carpenter is a good example, who died of heart failure because of the lack of heart electrolytes become imbalanced and so forth. All right, another one is bulimia. Bulimia nervosa is basically characterized by private binge purge episodes of overeating, usually of very high calorie foods, followed by vomiting, laxative use, fasting, excessive exercise. There was a point in time where we actually did anorexia, bulimia, or bulimia-rexia, because we would see some syndromes within each of these. So bulimia, you have the binge purge cycle that occurs after eating a lot of the time. You have overeating, so you have the binging. Sometimes that's the only thing that is salient as far as the symptom is concerned. And fasting, exercise, some of the fat-burning compounds you can get over the counter. All of these are part of that. But the key to keep in mind here is you have basically a normal weight, which means that you really may not know that it actually is going on around that. And when we talk about overeating and high-calorie foods, we're talking about a single episode caloric intake of 7 to 10,000 calories. So we're talking about a lot of calories, but you can ingest it very quickly. The last one is binge eating disorder. This has been relatively newly added to the DSM, and a lot of times challenging family settings, weight-obsessed societal pressures provide the ground on which most of these occur. The binge eating episode usually has a number of these binge eating episodes, and they're followed by remorse, but not purging or fasting. So it leaves out the purge cycle, essentially, the binge eating does. And we've had a number of seminars, workshops on campus about body image issues and relationships between the genders in terms of what supports healthy body image in women and also in men, for that matter, which can certainly impact it as well. So one of the interesting things I would comment on, having treated bulimics, is that oftentimes food replaces relationship. And the other interesting thing about this, which I'll just throw out and we can talk about it at a later point in time maybe, is that bulimia in women oftentimes looks a lot, and this is just my own private theory, to sexual addiction in men. Both are addictive behaviors. And they tend to follow this purge cycle, the binge purge cycle, which I see a lot of times in guys when I'm talking to them about sexual addiction or porn addiction or something like that. So just food for thought. That finishes up these series of modules. We will be moving into the last set for next week.